everybody, Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Everyone's had a good start to the week. We're going to actually go ahead and dive into the tropics here because things have kind of gotten interesting. Business is starting to pick up on both sides towards the Atlantic and Pacific and really worldwide. So before I get into things, just make sure you're smashing that like button, decimating that subscribe button, obliterating that share button, because some of this may potentially affect us. I'm not entirely sold on that right now, but I've seen some changes, especially with Hurricane Tammy here. We have Tammy just reaching hurricane status recently with winds at 75 miles per hour. Some further strengthening could be anticipated here. Could possibly make it all the way to Category 2. But eventually this does end up becoming post-tropical, and maybe some impacts towards Bermuda are possible. But notice it starts to take a little bit of a turn towards the U.S. here. This could partially be due in part to that ridge right now. Remember, keep in mind, this track only goes out to about 5 days, so whatever happens after that point, there's a lot of uncertainty with it. So we're going to have to just be watching this a little bit closer on the channel. Maybe a couple updates a week probably would be the move for here. But Tammy is an interesting area, and then Tropical Depression 21 has popped up over here just off the coast of the Yucatan here. Well, not the Yucatan, but near the Panama Canal region and towards Nicaragua. But this is going to be a point of interest. I'm thinking that this really isn't going to get its act together because it's so close to land already. We may not even see this become a named storm. If this were to become a named storm, it would be Vince. So that being said, we'll have to keep an extra close eye on this. I highly doubt that this is going to really get any chance because literally it's just hanging right off the coast right now towards Nicaragua, and then probably will be making impact early tomorrow morning. So flooding rain's possible, also some increased winds, but nothing significant right now. Interestingly enough, if we go over towards the Eastern Pacific here, you're probably, some of you may be thinking, hey, wouldn't that have a chance of, yes, you're right. If it makes it through Nicaragua, any of the remnant energy left over can form behind what's now Tropical Storm Otis, and could become a tropical system towards the Eastern Pacific. Thankfully, as of right now, it looks like the track would keep that mostly over sea, not land. But of course, we know that things can change pretty quickly, and there's also a low chance for this developing as well. So a lot of questions in the air for that one. And then as far as Otis is concerned, we'll go back to the 2-day graphical. This is a good look at what Otis looks like right now. We're currently at about 55 miles per hour as far as the storm is concerned. Actually 50. Let me make that correction real quick. And we can actually see this also making another landfall towards western Mexico. These guys have been getting slammed with multiple systems this year. It's kind of crazy to see. There's even potential for this to strengthen all the way up to hurricane here. We'll get a closer look at that. There are hurricane watches in effect. There are indeed tropical storm warnings in effect. This would be making landfall at its current pace right around 1 p.m. on Wednesday. So anyone out towards western Mexico, be on the lookout. This could be another tropical system bringing in heavy rain, high winds, and maybe even some flooding. So that's another thing to look out for. And then worldwide, if we were to go ahead and look at the overall picture here, a lot of activity in general, like we have the storms we just referred to. And then over towards the South Pacific even, we have a little bit of activity. North Indian Ocean now coming into play. So we might be looking at some stuff at the equator and south of it now, which is not something you see super often here. But Tropical Cyclone Lola is actually past major hurricane strength here. So that's a nice little change of pace. Hopefully this stays away from land, of course. This is pretty powerful storm from what I can see here. Unfortunately, it actually looks like it's heading right towards it. So this is just south of the Solomon Islands here, and forgive me, I'm not super familiar with these areas, but Vanuatu, I'm gonna assume that's how it's pronounced. Vanuatu looks like it's gonna be dealing with the direct impact from this storm, and it's gonna be a pretty strong one. So what we can do is hope that these guys will be prepared. And over towards the North Indian Ocean, we have the tropical cyclone Hamoon, which is at probably I would say mid-grade tropical storm strength at 58 miles an hour. This is also anticipated to make land here. I can't even read these names, so I'm not even going to get into it. I'm not entirely sure what language this is, unfortunately. But if I remember correctly, I don't think it's Thailand. But feel free to let me know in the comments what language this could be, because unfortunately I'm not quite cultured enough to figure it out. Feel free to laugh at me or kind of dump on me for it. It doesn't matter. But that being said, here these storm systems look like they're pretty gnarly in their own right here. So it's just kind of a representation of what we're dealing with right now. El Nino pattern can definitely affect multiple parts of the world, but considering the fact that I'm most familiar with the US, that's mainly what I cover. But anyway, enough rambling about the overall picture worldwide. We're going to mainly be looking at the storms that are closer to home. Here's Tammy, by the way. Tammy is looking decent for hurricane structure. It does try to get its act together, but the problem is, and it's pretty much been the same old song and dance in regards to how these storms develop. Start to run into some wind shear here, and we start to see these storms begin to kind of fall off as a result here. And eventually what ends up happening, these become post-tropical, and this looks to try to make a close pass towards Bermuda, and then after that it's kind of questionable as to where it will go beyond that point. Main thing to be aware of is the fact that wind shear is definitely seeming like the most prevalent thing that's going to slow this down. The sea surface temperatures could be another factor here. Trying to make sure I have all the info available to me. And yep, that's another factor coming into play, is the fact that it runs into cooler sea surface temperatures as well. Where it is right now, it's actually pretty warm across the board here. But what ends up happening as time goes on, of course, once you get into this 25 degrees Celsius area, we're barely above 80 degrees. Anything below 80, it's not quite as ideal. And if there's any wind shear to go with that, kind of really starts to cripple the storm here. And then, of course, here's that wind shear coming into play. And as a result, we end up seeing this storm really start to fall off here. It's kind of hard to see the number right here next to our low pressure area, but you can see that start to go up, whereas earlier we were in the 980s and 970s, which is indicative of a hurricane. We're dealing with a weak and deteriorating tropical low at this point by the time we get almost 100 hours out. So that being said, Tammy won't be a threat for too long. It'll still be questionable as to where it goes, but some models are still trending this heading out to sea, even though it makes a close pass to Bermuda, that cone of uncertainty. But that's just something we're going to have to keep an eye on over the next couple of days. I'll probably make another video maybe Thursday, depending on just where and how it decides to trend. When we go over to our tropical depression over here, tropical depression 21, and I'm going to readjust this here because I had the wrong model data up at the time. One thing to make note of here is that, of course, it's not looking super impressive over here as far as the temperature is concerned, or the structure. Of course, not really much time for this to really develop, but just as our suspicion was before when we were talking earlier, was that this would end up coming out towards the Eastern Pacific. And it looks like that ends up being the case. And also there's areas of convection that end up popping up over here, so that's another area to watch as well. But mainly not expecting too much in the way of impacts with this. As far as wind shear is concerned, not going to be too big of a problem. Like the wind shear over in this little area is too light. It's super light right now, at least. And the thing is, just not the real issue with this, as far as it really developing, is going to be more or less time. Just no time for it to really get its act together. It takes a little time for these to get going. So if you have a storm forming right up against the coast, odds are, unless it stalls out, it's not going to really strengthen too quickly. And then last but not least, we'll go ahead and take a look at this area over here, which is Otis. Otis looks moderately impressive here at this point. So we'll probably see this continue to strengthen, and we know where its track is going to end up being. This is not expected to really make a hurricane at this point, but it does look like it gets its act together quite nicely, I would say. Then eventually it makes that landfall over towards western Mexico. But interestingly enough, depending on the track here, this could end up kicking itself back out to sea here. So it'll probably be a shorter lived impact. We definitely don't want to see this go through central Mexico because it's already had a few systems go through. Definitely don't want to see any more potential landslides or flooding rains over towards this region, which is very susceptible to it as it is. Now looking at these areas in general as a whole here, there's been some glitches with the weather data here. We're kind of stuck right now with the model run in the Pacific and the Atlantic, so you're gonna have to bear with me on that. But as far as I'm concerned with the wind shear, we can see that for the most part we're still seeing a pretty dominant steering pattern that's going to keep these storms off to the north and west here. With the ridge in play too, it looks like we're going to probably stay safe over most of the US here. Even towards the Gulf, something has to form over here towards the Yucatan to really get itself going, and right now we're just not really seeing that. Wind shear is too strong to really get anything to form anyway. So anything that forms in the Caribbean right now probably just get kicked out to sea right now, unless it can just make it between this little strait right here between Cuba and the Yucatan. Then when we look at the Pacific, pretty much a similar deal. Like I said, this is much more limited on the amount of time that I can look right now, unfortunately. Only up to 132 hours, but you can see for the most part, the further away from the coast we get, the stronger the wind shear is. This is due in large part to that subtropical jet starting to come back into play once more. So as a result, we can probably safely say that once this storm makes its brush with the West Mexico coast here, it's going to probably end up getting kicked out to sea as well. So interesting little period of time that we have going on over here towards the tropics. Hopefully everyone is staying safe that could be in the line of fire, regardless of which region you are in. But overall here, as far as the US is concerned, it doesn't look like we're going to see any sort of imminent or major impacts right now. That being said, hope you guys enjoyed the video, found it useful. Make sure you smash that like button, decimate that subscribe button, and hit that share button. I have a video up for you guys in the morning, and that'll be to the Weather Nerd 101 playlist for anyone that's interested in that. But until then, it's been Metalhead Weatherman. You guys take care. Have a good night, and I'll see you later.